Okay, so let's think about this. If you've ever had like bad breath that just won't quit, or
Yeah.
plaque buildup, gum issues, for decades the answer was always pretty straightforward, wasn't it? Kill it, nuke it. We all reached for the strongest mouthwash, the harshest rinse, sort of a scorched earth policy for your mouth. But the research we're digging into today asked this really fundamental question. What if that whole wipe everything out idea, even if it works short term, is actually, well, messing things up? What if the goal shouldn't be sterilization, but maybe like managing the environment?
That's exactly it. That's the huge shift happening in oral science right now. We're moving conceptually away from just chemical sterilization, that blunt force approach,
Hmm.
and we're moving towards thinking about biological balance. The real mission is changing. It's less about eradication and more about cultivation, helping the good bacteria, the beneficial ones, in your oral microbiome so they naturally keep the harmful ones in check.
Right. So that's our deep dive today. We're going into the science behind this shift, looking at how oral probiotics actually work, their mechanisms. And we'll look at how products like ProvaDent are kind of embodying this new microbiome-first thinking, and hopefully give you some practical takeaways. Okay, let's start with why the old way is falling out of favor. Those traditional antiseptic mouthwashes like chlorhexidine, they work fast, right? So why are clinicians rethinking them?
Well, yeah, they are fast, but their speed comes from being completely non-selective. They blast everything. They reduce the total number of bacteria quickly, yes, but they hit the good guys just as hard as the bad guys. And that just throws the whole ecosystem out of whack.
Ah, so you kill the good guards along with the invaders.
Precisely. And when you create that kind of biological vacuum, you often get rebound problems. Things like irritated gums, maybe your taste goes funny, or worse, you get an opportunistic overgrowth. The toughest, most resistant bugs can sometimes be the first ones to bounce back and take over the empty space.
Okay, so it's not just about killing power. It's that you hit reset, and maybe the wrong things grow back first and fastest.
Exactly right. We need to start seeing the mouth for what it is. This incredibly complex environment. You've got hundreds of types of bacteria living on your teeth, your tongue, your gums, and your saliva, all competing for these little niches. The new thinking is about managing this whole system, cultivating it, not just trying to disinfect a surface.
And you're saying this isn't just a theory anymore. There's actual clinical data backing this up.
Oh, definitely. The evidence is building. We're seeing studies, good studies, showing that using specific probiotics can actually reduce inflammation markers in the gums. They can lower the levels of bacteria we associate with disease and even help with stubborn bad breath halitosis. So if the problem with sterilization is that vacuum it creates, oral probiotics are basically the reinforcements we send in to fill that space constructively. We're talking about specific known strains of beneficial bacteria. You usually take them as like lozenges or chewable tablets, maybe capsules. And the whole idea is that they temporarily or maybe even long term colonize your mouth and help stabilize things.
Okay, but hang on. Why can't you just say eat a ton of yogurt or drink kefir? Doesn't that have probiotics?
Right.
Why specific oral ones in a lozenge?
That's a really important point because the effects are incredibly strain specific. The bacteria in yogurt, they're fantastic for your gut microbiome, no question, but they generally aren't adapted to survive or, crucially, stick to the surfaces inside your mouth. It's a different environment. Oral probiotics, the ones studied like certain lactobacillus species or streptococcus salivarius strains, are chosen specifically because they can live and thrive in the mouth.
Got it. So these are like the special forces for your mouth, specifically trained for that environment. How do they actually fight off the bad bacteria then? What are their tactics?
Well, there seem to be about four main ways they do this. First is simple competitive exclusion. It's really a numbers game. The good guys get in there, they take up physical space on your tongue, on your gums, and they start using up the available nutrients. This makes it physically harder for the pathogens, the bad guys, to even get started, to find a place to attach.
Okay, so they just crowd them out. Makes sense.
Yeah, basically. Second, some strains actually produce their own weapons. It's called bacteriocin production. These are specific substances, like tiny little targeted missiles that inhibit or kill closely related competing bacteria. For example, some S. salivarius strains make bacteriocins that specifically target the bacteria known to produce those smelly VSCs, the volatile sulfur compounds causing bad breath.
Wow, okay, so tiny chemical warfare happening right in your mouth.
Pretty much. Third, there's immune modulation. These good bacteria can actually help calm down the local immune response. We see evidence of reduced inflammation, which you might notice as less bleeding when you brush your gums, for instance.
Interesting. So they're not just fighting, they're also acting like peacekeepers.
In a way, yes. And finally, number 4 is biofilm modulation. Pathogens love to hide out in thick, unhealthy biofilms, that sticky plaque layer. Probiotics can help disrupt the formation of those unhealthy biofilms or make them less sticky, allowing a healthier, more balanced microbial community to establish itself. This is where strains like S. salivarius K12 and M18 have shown some real promise in studies.
All right, let's talk results. The clinical evidence, what does it actually show for specific conditions? But we need to stress this point again, right? Probiotics are an add-on, not a magic bullet replacement for brushing and flossing.
Absolutely critical point. They are an adjunctive strategy. They work with good hygiene, not instead of it. But when used that way, the results are encouraging. Let's take gum health gingivitis, periodontitis. We have randomized controlled trials, good quality studies using strains like Lactobacillus reuteri in lozenge form, and they show measurable improvements, reduced gum inflammation, less bleeding on probing, especially when people use them alongside their regular cleaning routine.
Okay, that's significant. What about bad breath? Halitosis, that's a big one for a lot of people.
Yeah, and that's actually one of the areas with some of the strongest evidence, particularly for strains like Streptococcus salivarius K12. Studies clearly show that using K12 can lead to a reduction in those volatile sulfur compounds, the VSCs, which are the main culprits behind bad breath. There is a key practical point here, though. You often get the best results if you're also doing mechanical cleaning, like scraping your tongue, to remove the gunk where those VSC-producing bacteria hang out first.
Right, you got to clear the battlefield before sending in the good guys.
Exactly. Then for dental caries, tooth decay, the evidence is a bit more mixed, but still points in a positive direction. Some studies suggest certain probiotics can reduce the levels of Streptococcus mutans, which is a key bacteria linked to cavities. This might lower the risk markers for decay, often when used together with fluoride. But yeah, the reviews do call for more large-scale, long-term trials to really nail this down.
So if you look at the big picture from systematic reviews, the overall takeaway seems to be benefits are seen, but there's a lot of variation, like different strains, doses, study lengths.
That's the main challenge, yes. Heterogeneity makes it hard to compare studies directly, but the trend is definitely positive across these conditions, showing the potential. We just need more standardization in the research moving forward.
Okay, let's make this practical. You mentioned ProvaDent earlier as sort of a case study for this microbiome first idea. How does a product like that actually put this science into action? Let's break it down beyond just the marketing points.
Right. Well, if you look at its design philosophy, it really mirrors this shift we've been talking about. It's not positioned as an antiseptic to kill things. It's framed as ecological support. The goal seems to be helping your mouth's natural defenses. So it aims to reduce the bad actors, the cariogenic bacteria, while actively creating conditions that help the good bacteria stick around and thrive.
Okay, how specifically?
Well, first, it includes specific probiotic strains. That directly ties into the competitive exclusion mechanism we talked about. You're introducing beneficial bacteria intended to colonize those surfaces, literally competing for space and resources against potential pathogens.
Okay, makes sense. And it also mentions other ingredients like organic xylitol and cranberry extract.
Yeah.
How do they fit into this probiotic strategy? Are they just filler?
No, not at all, actually. Those components seem designed to support the probiotics, particularly with biofilm modulation and inhibiting the bad guys. Take xylitol. It's a sugar alcohol that harmful bacteria like S. mutans can't really metabolize effectively, so it kind of disrupts their energy source and makes it harder for them to produce that sticky plaque biofilm.
Ah, so it stars them or gums up their work.
Something like that, yeah. And cranberry extract is interesting, too. It contains compounds called polyphenols. There's separate research suggesting these polyphenols can interfere with the ability of certain pathogens to adhere, to stick to the surfaces in your mouth, like your teeth.
I see. So it's like a multi-pronged approach.
Yeah.
I've got the good bacteria competing for space, maybe making bacteriocins, and then you have these other ingredients making the environment itself less friendly for the pathogens.
Exactly. You're trying to tip the ecological balance. It's about working with the mouth's natural systems, not against them.
This is great. So for someone listening who's thinking, okay, I want to try a microbiome-focused approach,
Yeah.
what are the key things they absolutely need to keep in mind based on the science? Maybe like 5 main points?
Yeah. Okay. 5 key things. Number 1, and we can't say this enough, Probiotics are an adjunct, not a substitute. They enhance your hygiene routine. They don't replace it. Brushing, flossing, tongue cleaning, seeing your dentist regularly, that's the foundation, non-negotiable.
Right. Bedrock first. What's number two?
Second, strain matters hugely. Look for products that actually tell you which species and which specific strain they contain. Things like L. reuteri prudentis or S. salivarius K12 or M18. If it just says probiotic blend, you don't really know what you're getting or if there's clinical evidence behind it.
Transparency is key. Got it. Third,
Manage expectations regarding variability. Everyone's oral microbiome is unique. So what works wonders for one person might be less effective for another. It might take some consistency, maybe even trying a different product with different strains to find what works best for your mouth.
Okay, so patience and maybe some trial and error. Number four.
Fourth is safety. Generally, for healthy people, the established oral probiotic strains have a very good safety record. But if someone is severely immunocompromised or has serious underlying health conditions, they should definitely talk to their doctor or dentist before starting any new supplement, including these.
Standard precaution. Makes sense. And the fifth point.
Fifth, pay attention to those complementary ingredients, things like xylitol or cranberry extract, as we discussed with ProvaDent. They aren't just filler, they often have their own independent scientific backing for helping to reduce risk or inhibit pathogen activity. They can make the whole approach more robust.
Excellent checklist. Now, a practical question. If the goal is getting these good bacteria to colonize, how long does that typically take? When might someone expect to notice a difference?
It varies, of course, but many of the clinical trials report seeing measurable changes either in the bacterial populations themselves or in symptoms like reduced bleeding or improved breath within, say, a few weeks to a couple of months of consistent use. And remember, for colonization, contact time is important. That's why lozenges or chewables that dissolve slowly in the mouth are often the preferred way to take them. You want those bacteria spending time on the surfaces.
Right, let it linger. Okay, looking ahead then, this whole shift away from just killing bacteria feels, well, it feels like the start of something bigger in oral care. What's the next frontier here? What are you most excited about?
Oh, for me, it's undoubtedly personalized oral care. That's the really exciting horizon. We're moving away from the one-size-fits-all antiseptic mouthwash for everyone. The future, and it's probably not that far off, could involve your dentist taking a quick swab, analyzing your unique oral microbiome profile, and then tailoring recommendations, specific probiotic strains, the right dose, maybe even the best delivery format based on your individual risk factors and the specific bacteria living in your mouth. That level of precision could be revolutionary. Hashtag, outro.
Wow. Yeah, that really brings it all together. We've definitely journeyed from that old idea of just, waging chemical war in our mouths towards these newer strategies that are all about cultivating resilience, managing the ecosystem. It seems like targeted probiotics, combined with those supportive ingredients, are genuinely a promising new tool. A supplementary tool, yes, but a powerful one when used smartly alongside good old-fashioned brushing and flossing.
Absolutely. And just a final reminder, if you have persistent gum problems or really stubborn bad breath or any serious concerns, these approaches are fantastic adjuncts, but always start by consulting with your dentist or hygienist. Get a proper diagnosis first.
Couldn't agree more. Okay, so here's a final thought to leave you with, something to chew on, perhaps literally. If the future really hinges on carefully balancing and cultivating the right kinds of bacteria in our mouths, think about this. How might our modern diet, particularly the sheer amount of processed foods and added sugars we consume beyond just the obvious link to cavities, how might that diet itself be acting like a kind of unintentional, non-selective fertilizer, constantly feeding and encouraging the growth of the wrong kinds of bacteria, making it that much harder for the beneficial ones to thrive? That's a whole other layer to this ecosystem management challenge, something to think about.